For the juror's return, yes?
Yes, Your Honor, after further consideration, given the way the cross-examination went with the defendant, we have decided that there is no necessity to call Andrew directly.
Right. I indicated yesterday that I would rule, and I did indicate to counsel that I was going to allow a broad cross-examination of Mr. Jarecki, notwithstanding his...
And I thought I was chipping my argument, you know.
Right.
No, I accepted. I did accept that argument. So it's up to you whether you call a witness or not.
And Your Honor, just so it's clear, the court might have noticed, my email did not acknowledge your email. I didn't see your email until after I sent you mine.
Okay, well, good. Well, I'm glad that
Did we make things nicer at the Wyndham home in terms of Lasso?
Yes, thank you for that.
Thanks, Your Honor.
No, I was afraid I wouldn't be able to watch Ted Lasso.
Ethan said the second season you weren't missing much.
I have to use the closed captioning to understand the Cockney.
No, I do too.
Yeah.
Well, I have a closed caption on everything. There isn't anything that I don't
I don't know.
It's picking up though, actually.
There is a great show that is on, and this is more intellectual than I would normally be. It's a British show that's on the British Internal Affairs Unit.
Yeah, it's good.
Oh, you've seen it?
It's so good.
I'm on season 5.
Right.
Wait, what?
All jurors and alternates have returned. They're in their places, and Mr. Durst has returned. His lawyers, Mr. Chesnoff and Mr. DeGuerin, are present. We have Mr. Lewin, Milius, Balian, Yada, and Henderson present for the people. You may resume your redirect examination of Mr. Durst.
Got it. At one point, during your cross-examination, you used the term buried, referring to Kathy. Why did you use the term buried?
I was referring to
Oh,
what...
wait a minute, hold on.
I was referring to what Mr. Lewin has told everybody, that I buried Kathy in the pine barrens. I was saying I did not bury Kathy anywhere.
When you were admittedly on the run from Galveston, and you went to Pennsylvania, and you went to several locations in Pennsylvania, what were you doing?
I was going back to places where I had lived in the past. I went to Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, where I went to college at Lehigh University, where I was eventually arrested. I also went to my fraternity house in Pennsylvania. And in New York, I went to half a dozen places where I had lived previously.
Were those places that held pleasant memories for you?
Yes,
And so why did you go there?
I wanted to go there before killing myself.
Did you intend to kill yourself?
Yeah,
Did you think your life was over?
I knew I could not live as a fugitive.
Bob, did you love Kathy?
Yes, very much.
Even though you had problems, did you still love Kathy?
Yes,
Have you ever loved anybody in your life more than Kathy?
no,
Did you kill her?
no,
Did you love Susan?
yes,
Have you ever loved anybody in your life the way that you love Susan?
no.
Explain that.
Oh, I mean, I was closer to Susan than anybody, with the exception of Kathy. Susan was a friend. I had other friends. But none of my other friendships were like my friendship with Susan.
Did you kill Susan?
No,
Do you know who did? Do you know who did?
no.
Pass the witness, John.
Thank you. Recross.
Mr. Durst, you were asked some questions by Mr. DeGuerin, and you testified at length about the way that you were mistreated when you were arrested in New Orleans, correct?
Correct.
You have said that the deputies stripped you naked, correct?
Told me to take off my clothes.
You have said that they threatened you, in essence said you were never getting out, correct?
Well, they said, you're not going to need clothes, we're going to throw away the key.
And you recognized at that time you'd already served time in several different prisons and jail facilities, correct?
8, I believe.
8, correct? Did you say 8?
8.
And you would agree that you understood this treatment to not only be immoral and unprofessional, but probably illegal, correct?
Correct.
And can you tell me, Mr. Durst, do you have a copy of any complaint that you filed by either you or your lawyers with anybody in a position of authority at the New Orleans prison regarding this absolutely abysmal and horrific treatment?
I'm not sure what the lawyers did was considered a complaint, but I was moved out of the New Orleans parish jail and moved to a much nicer facility in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, after 3 days.
So, Mr. Durst, you agree that you had not only your Texas lawyers at that time, but you had local counsel in Louisiana, correct?
Correct.
And you're a very wealthy man, correct?
Correct.
And you're telling me that after receiving that treatment, you didn't file one complaint, take one action that you're aware of to make sure that these unethical deputies were punished for that treatment?
It would have been my word against their word, and the lawyers did reach agreement to move me out of that jail after 3 days and move me to a different jail in Baton Rouge.
Mr. Durst, you talked a moment ago during your redirect, you mentioned that Dr. Peter Wilk said that Kathy was getting drug treatment. Is that correct?
Correct.
Now, Mr. Durst, you heard Dr. Wilk's testimony, correct?
Correct.
Is it your testimony that Dr. Wilk said that Kathy was getting drug therapy, or that he mentioned she was getting therapy and didn't say anything about drugs? Which was it?
I recollect him saying she was getting therapy for her drug problems.
PW 017, please.
This will be part of People's 42 transcript found in People's 42A.
42, 42A.
And was part of the meeting to discuss with her performance and what was going on and how she could do better?
Yes.
Okay. Did she specifically discuss with you what was interfering with her ability to do well in her course?
She did.
What she said? To the best of your memory.
That's not my memory. Everything just came spilling out before it. She was very emotional. She was shaking. She was traumatized. She said that she was going through it, that it was a terrible time. She said that she actually had been interested in surgery, that she ranked it #1. She wanted to do that, but she couldn't because of all the unpleasantness that was going on. There was violence involved, and there were court proceedings, and there were lawyers, and there were therapists, and it was, her life was a mess.
Did she tell you who was causing this unpleasantness and violence?
Yes, she said it was her husband. She mentioned that she had been married for 8 years. He was an older person, 10 years older, and that he was violent. She used the word that I've never heard used before. She said there was a homicidal side to it. And that was shocking to me. The concept that somebody could use that word.
Excuse me, beyond the scope, do I read?
Oh,
Mr. Durst, you just heard Dr. Peter Wilk's testimony regarding this area, correct?
Correct.
He didn't mention anything about drug therapy, did he?
It just said therapy.
So is it your testimony, Mr. Durst, that you just accidentally said the word drug, or was that an example of some of the perjury you've already admitted to?
Objection, argumentative.
Sustained.
Mr. Durst, why is it that you use the word drug when in fact Dr. Wilk never said drug?
I thought he said drug therapy.
Would you agree, Mr. Durst, that it was in your interest during your testimony to try and find somebody else to corroborate your allegations of your wife going to drug therapy?
Yes.
And Mr. Durst, you heard the rest of Dr. Wilk's testimony.
Yeah.
Kathy told him that the reason she was having these problems was because of her homicidal husband, correct?
Correct.
That's you, correct?
That's me.
And Mr. Durst, you're up here talking about your wife's problems in medical school, talking about her cocaine use, when in the end, she's having problems because you are emotionally and physically abusing her, correct?
Objection, argumentative.
Overruled.
She did not say I was emotionally and physically abusing her. She said she was having problems because she was going to court.
Mr. Durst, when she referred to you as homicidal, do you think that she was talking about the loving, caring relationship and support that she had from you at home?
I thought she was making an excuse for missing classes.
So it's your belief that your wife demeaned herself by crying in front of an attending physician, falling apart, telling him how extremely emotional and frightened she was, and that she did that to simply get out of missing classes? Is that your testimony?
Back to the first part of the question. Argument.
Overruled.
I thought that she must have put on an excellent act, shaking.
Can you explain, Mr. Durst, why it would be in your wife's interest as a medical student to tell a much older male attending physician that she is involved with a man who is homicidal and is abusing her? Can you explain how that would be in her interest?
It would explain why she was missing class.
Would you agree, Mr. Durst, that to say that to somebody, given your wife's position as a fourth-year medical student, would have been extremely humiliating and demeaning?
Objection, argument.
Overruled.
I have difficulty with demeaning. There was only the two of them there. Kathy was trying to make up excuses for missing classes.
Now, Mr. Durst, you were shown Kathy's medical school application where it said, "My husband is supportive of my efforts to become a doctor." Do you recall that?
Yeah,
I want you to assume for a moment, Mr. Durst, that you were not supportive, that you were abusive. Would you expect that your wife, on a medical school application, is going to say, "By the way, my husband emotionally and physically abuses me"? Would you expect that even if that were occurring, that your wife would be putting it on a medical school application?
Improper assumption.
Overruled.
what am I gotta read this again now. So I'm supposed to assume that I'm not supportive. And I'm supposed to decide that if I was not supportive, would Kathy have put on a medical school application that I was not supportive? If I was not supportive, I don't know that Kathy would say I was not supportive. I don't think that would get her anywhere. She was trying to get into medical school.
Right, so you agree, Mr. Durst, that the fact that she is saying, "My husband is supportive," doesn't in any way mean that that was a true statement. She's trying to get into medical school, correct?
Correct.
And if she would have said, let's assume for a moment that you were in fact emotionally and physically abusing her, you would agree she can't say in her application, "By the way, my husband emotionally abuses and physically beats me." She can't say that on an application. You would agree, correct?
Improper premise. Argument.
Overruled.
It doesn't seem to me that saying that her husband was supportive would help her get into medical school.
Mr. Durst, do you recall when I showed you the November 5th, 2000 letter from Susan, that your response was to say, and I'm paraphrasing, "Of course Susan is asking me for money in that letter. Anybody reading it can tell Susan is asking me for money in that letter." Correct?
Objection. Improper. It's not good.
Overruled.
It doesn't say, "Please send me money." It doesn't say how much money she wants. Reading between the lines, it was the way Susan would ask for money.
And Mr. Durst, in fact, your response when I asked you the question, and I'm paraphrasing, was in essence, "Of course she's asking for money. Read between the lines, look at the letter." Correct? That's what you said, correct?
I would accept your paraphrase what I said.
However, just a few moments ago, you just testified in response to Mr. DeGuerin's questions that no, Susan wasn't asking you for money in that letter. Do you recall that testimony?
Yeah, the letter does not ask me for money.
Mr. Durst, the letter doesn't explicitly ask you for money, but you agree that the way you read that letter and the way you said anybody would read that letter was Susan was asking you for money, correct?
Correct.
And you responded to that request by sending her $25,000 within 2 days of that letter, correct?
If that's, yes.
All right. You also testified, Mr. Durst, that you now believe that the phone that you used was the one next to Susan's body, correct?
I think I picked up both phones.
Well, Mr. Durst, isn't it true that when you were originally going through what you did, you were very clear, repeatedly, you went through and said, I picked up that phone, and you were not referring to the phone next to her body, correct?
I think I picked up both phones.
Listen to my question. I'm not asking you what you're saying happened now. I'm saying when you were going over what happened, you told Mr. DeGuerin that you had used a phone that was not in the room where Susan's body was located, correct?
Correct.
Did you in any way hesitate or say, I'm not sure which phone I used?
I picked up a phone in the bedroom. And it was dead.
Motion to strike is non-responsive.
Sorry.
Stricken.
Mr. Durst, listen to my question. You did not in any way, when you were describing what phone you used, you did not hesitate in your certainty that the phone you had used was not the one next to Susan's body, correct?
I don't think I said the phone I used was not the one next to Susan's body.
Mr. Durst, you described the phone you used. You said that it was next to a computer, correct? I think you referred to it either as in the kitchen or in the room next to the kitchen, correct?
Correct.
And that's not the phone that's next to her body, correct?
Correct.
So, Mr. Durst, isn't it true that once you got trapped on your lie that that phone was working, that you realized, I need to use a different phone, and on redirect you get up here and you now say, oh, the phone I used was the one next to Susan's body. Is that what happened?
No.
Overruled. The answer may stand.
Mr. Durst, you have mentioned repeatedly how you were going to kill yourself when you took off for Pennsylvania, correct?
When I took off to Pennsylvania.
Yes.
Correct.
And you even said that that's why you had the guns, correct?
Correct.
You said actually, though, when you were confronted with the fact that you had 80 rounds of ammunition and you had 2 guns, you testified, correct? First, well, I read an article and sometimes people don't die from the first shot, correct?
Correct.
And then you said, and actually, when I said, well, wait a minute, you don't just have a bunch of extra ammo, you have 2 guns, and you said, maybe like Yosemite Sam, you were going to hold the guns up to both sides and shoot yourself at the same time. That was your testimony, correct?
That's correct.
Mr. Durst, does it make any sense at all that you would take 2 guns and use 2 different guns to kill yourself?
When I held my hands up to my head, I was being humorous. You have said I have a dry sense of humor. That was my sense of humor.
Okay, so that's, and I asked you if you were joking, but we're still left with the question. You said you had the gun with you to commit suicide. we now know that not only did you have 80 rounds, you had 2 different guns. If you're going to be killing yourself, and if you're joking about putting 2 guns up to the side of your head, why do you have 2 guns?
I had a gun in Texas, which I took with me to New Orleans, which I took with me to Mobile, Alabama, which I took with me to Pennsylvania and New York. When I went to New York, I went back to the house I owned in Ridgefield, Connecticut. And I took clothes, and I took a gun I had there.
Why would you take a gun you had in Ridgefield, Connecticut when you already had a gun?
I did that.
So when you say I did that, Mr. Durst, is that your way of saying I cannot explain why I did what I did, but I did it?
Correct.
Would you agree, Mr. Durst, that throughout your testimony, maybe 100 times, you have said to the effect of, I can't explain what I did, but I did it?
Sure.
Objection, argumentative.
Sustained. Stricken.
Mr. Durst, have you repeatedly stated during your testimony, when confronted with evidence that you cannot explain, I can't explain it, but I did what I did?
I can't explain it, but I did what I did.
Would you agree, Mr. Durst, that as human beings, that the actions that people take generally are taken for explainable reasons? Would you agree?
Objection, argumentative.
Overruled.
Generally, I would agree.
So as an example, if somebody crosses a street, you would probably be able to ask that person, say, hey, why did you cross the street? And you would expect them to be able to give a response, correct?
They crossed the street to get to the other side.
that is generally true. And you would also agree, Mr. Durst, that generally speaking, if you ask somebody, for instance, hey, why did you go to El Pollo Loco for lunch today? They're going to give you a reason, correct?
Correct.
Why did you wear that tie today? They're going to give you a reason, correct?
Oh, I don't know about that.
Well, you don't think that most people, when they get dressed and they're going to select a tie to wear, they pick a tie and they might say, hey, I thought it goes well with my suit, I thought it brings out my eyes, whatever it might be. There's likely going to be some reason, correct, Mr. Durst?
Relevant.
Overruled.
I don't know that people do that.
Would you agree, Mr. Durst, that of the 3 examples I just gave, that all of those 3 examples are much more innocuous activities than making the decision to get and bring a firearm into your vehicle?
Argumentative.
Overruled.
I thought getting a firearm was pretty innocuous.
So, Mr. Durst, again, since you've just testified that generally speaking, people have reasons for what they do, I'm going to ask you, please explain why it was that having one firearm, which you said is all you need to kill yourself, that you decided to take a second firearm from your home in Ridgefield and put it in your car.
All I can say is that is what I did.
All right. You would agree, Mr. Durst, that you also talked about killing yourself, and that was the reason you said you got the gun in 2015 to go to New Orleans, correct?
If that's what I said, that's what I said.
Well, let me ask you, give you another chance right now. You said that you got a gun, you got a car, and that whoever it was threw in a very fancy mask on your way to New Orleans, correct?
Correct.
Why did you get the gun?
To kill myself.
So, Mr. Durst, if you got the gun to kill yourself, why was it fully loaded?
I thought about this conversation yesterday evening. I don't ever remember loading the gun. I think the gun came fully loaded.
So, Mr. Durst, if you intended to commit suicide, why were you getting $115,000 from Susan Giordano in a suitcase?
Well, I was of two minds. One mind was I should kill myself because there's no way I can live as a fugitive. And the other half of my mind said, you should prepare yourself to live as a fugitive.
Would you agree, Mr. Durst, that you have testified a lot of times about the idea of killing yourself, but you've never made one attempt to do so?
Well, I do think I did make an attempt driving from Mobile, Alabama, one of the motels I stopped in. I took a whole bunch of halcyon sleeping pills. I got into a warm bathtub with one of the guns, and I told myself that I would not get out of the bathtub.
And Mr. Durst, you would agree this is the first time you've ever told this story in this trial. You never told it. In Galveston, you never told it.
Galveston, I did tell it.
Oh, you did tell this story in Galveston.
I do, yes.
And Mr. Durst, you didn't kill yourself, did you?
No.
Now, yesterday, Mr. Durst, you were played a call that involved a conversation with your wife, and it specifically involved comments that you were making about your brother Douglas Durst and Janine Pirro. I'm going to replay that call for you right now.
Beyond the scope of redirect.
Your Honor, the court was very lenient with...
Yeah, no, I am.
Okay.
Can you point to something?
Yes. Please, I probably have 15 minutes, Your Honor. I'll be done before
Okay,
noon.
Still beyond the scope. It might, I don't know if it is or not. Let's step aside, give me an offer of proof.
All right.
I don't even want to go all the way to Chambers. Any objections?
Oh, no. I need a moment, Your Honor.
Yep.
It's my fault, Your Honor, not Mr. Milius, as I did not give him the clip number. I apologize.
It's RD 796. It's one of the ones we marked yesterday. That's a good answer. People 335.
People 335.
Anyway, so Lisa DiPaolo says she moved into Janine Pirro's
I saw that.
She treated like a maid.
their different opinions about whether or not Douglas helped me dispose of the body.
I understand.
I love it.
Yeah, the only thing I think, though, is that Douglas may be behind Lisa Apollo.
Well, then it's Janine Pirro who must think that Douglas is,
Oh, yes. Yes, she thinks that Douglas helped you.
Right. I might decide to, depending how things go, to confirm her thoughts.
And Mr. Durst, would you agree that until I played that clip for you yesterday, you were unaware, did not remember, and had never seen that call before, correct?
I mean, Your Honor, this is beyond the scope. I moved to strike.
Overruled.
I don't recall. Yes, correct.
And you would agree, Mr. Durst, that you are talking about the idea of Douglas helping you dispose of the body of your wife, Kathy, correct?
Correct.
And in fact, your wife says that she believes, meaning Janine Pirro, believes that Douglas helped you get rid of the body of your wife, Kathy, correct?
Yes.
And Mr. Durst, do you in any way respond to your wife, well, I didn't get rid of Kathy, I didn't kill her, Douglas couldn't have helped me because I didn't have anything to do with it? Do you say any of those things?
No.
In fact, your response, Mr. Durst, is to say, depending on how things go, you might confirm that's what happened, correct?
Correct.
Mr. Durst, please explain how that is anything other than a confession to you having disposed of your wife's body.
It is not a confession of me having disposed of my wife's body.
Please explain, Mr. Durst, when you are saying that you might decide to confirm her thoughts that you had disposed of your wife's body. Explain how it can be anything other than a confession.
We're talking about what Janine Pirro thought.
And your response, Mr. Durst, is that depending on how things go, you're going to confirm that that's exactly what happened, correct?
Correct.
And Mr. Durst, how can you confirm what happened if you, in fact, are not the person that disposed of your wife's body?
I was saying that the trial went badly, meaning if they incorrectly convicted me, then the thing I might decide to do is to tell them that since I've been convicted and I'm in prison, I would enjoy Douglas being convicted and going to prison too.
Is that, I was going to ask you, is that going to be your final explanation on that point? Do you have anything else to add?
Well, that's my only explanation.
Let me ask you, Mr. Durst, does that sound like a reasonable explanation to you?
Argumentative. The same.
All right, Mr. Durst, you were also asked by Mr. DeGuerin on cross-examination, excuse me, on redirect, regarding your comment about burial yesterday, Kathy being buried. Do you recall that?
I do.
And either you just testified or you implied in your testimony that somehow the subject of Kathy being buried was not brought up by you. Is that your testimony?
You brought up that Kathy was buried in the Pine Barrens.
Your testimony is during the exchange on the stand yesterday, you were responding to me, bringing up to you that Kathy was buried in the Pine Barrens?
Correct.
Let's play the clip, please.
People 345 in the transcript, 345.
You are now saying that the point of that was you're trying to get a plea deal, correct?
Correct.
And a plea deal, the point of a plea deal is that in the end, in order for your plea deal to go through, you have to give us what you're offering on your end, and we have to give you what you're requesting on our end. Is that correct?
I never said I knew what happened to Susan. I never said I knew where Kathy was buried.
Mr. Durst, there was no discussion about the Pine Barrens or about Kathy being buried at all, correct?
Objection, argumentative.
In that conversation, what it repeatedly stated that you, Janine Pirro, and others, Joe Becerro, even went to the Pine Barrens because that's where bodies get buried.
Mr. Durst, isn't it true that this was a conversation about what you were alleging were plea negotiations, and that you were recounting what we would expect on our end, which would be for you to say what happened to Susan, and then you slipped up and said where Kathy was buried. Is that correct?
Argumentative. Objection.
Other than the slipped up, I agree with what you said.
Well, Mr. Durst, according to your testimony and your knowledge, you have no idea where Kathy is today, correct?
Correct.
You have no idea how she died, correct?
I'm not aware she did die.
Right. You have no idea if she did die who killed her, correct?
Correct.
You have no idea if she did die where her body would have been discarded, correct?
Correct.
Yet on your own, Mr. Durst, you use the term where Kathy is buried, correct?
Objection 352.
I don't know what you mean, on my own.
You just heard the clip, Mr. Durst. On your own, you were explaining what you thought we would want, and you used the term where Kathy is buried. Is that correct?
I think that is what you want.
Well, Mr. Durst, how would you know that Kathy was buried, period? You just said you don't even know if she's dead.
I was responding to what I thought you would want.
So you were telling me that you knew that Kathy was dead and that you had buried her because that's what you thought I wanted?
I was telling you what I thought you would want me to say in a plea bargain.
Well, Mr. Durst, where did you get the idea that Kathy was buried at all if you're not the one that killed and buried her?
I got the idea that you think Kathy was buried in the Pine Barrens from you.
Mr. Durst, if in fact you had buried Kathy and were being accused of doing so, would you tell us?
Improper. Hypothetical. Improper basis. Overruled.
If I had buried Kathy, I did not bury Kathy.
Listen to my question. You previously testified, Mr. Durst, that if you had killed Kathy, you would not tell us, correct? You would lie. That's what you've testified to.
That's what I testified to.
So I'm asking you, if you had buried Kathy, would you tell us or would you lie?
Well, I did not bury Kathy.
Listen to my question again, Mr. Durst. If you had buried Kathy, would you tell us?
I did not bury Kathy, and I did not kill Kathy, and I don't know that Kathy is dead.
Mr. Durst, do you understand the question that I'm asking you?
Yeah,
And you're just going to refuse to answer it, is that correct?
correct.
All right. Mr. Durst, the last area that Mr. DeGuerin covered with you is he asked you, did you love Kathy? And then he asked you, would you kill Kathy? And you responded no, correct?
I responded that I loved Kathy, and I responded that I did not kill Kathy.
And then he asked you if you loved Susan, and you said yes, you love Susan. And he asked you if you would kill Susan, and you said no, correct?
Correct.
Mr. Durst, you have repeatedly admitted that if you had killed either Kathy or Susan or both of them, you would never tell us, correct?
Correct.
Nothing further.
You redirect?
No.
The witness may resume his seat at council table. Deputy Washington, thank you. Mr. Milius? I want to hear Mr. DeGuerin.
The defense rests, Your Honor.
Is there rebuttal?
Your Honor, we have a stipulation for rebuttal. Due to the agreement, we are not doing written stipulation. The agreement is that I'm going to read into the record the following. Sarah Kaufman would testify as a witness in this case to the following. He would testify that on March 9, 2002, he visited Bob Durst in the Galveston jail. During that time, they had a conversation where the following exchange took place.
And please read this slowly.
Will do. This is going to be from a recorded interview that Sarah Kaufman gave to detectives on April 23, 2003, page 4, lines 5 through 18. Kaufman, and he seemed very lucid. He knew what he had done. He said it had been an accident. It was like heat of the moment. And they had had some argument. Now, he didn't tell me what, but something had happened where he went and got his loaded gun and did it. Question. He said that they had gotten into an argument, that he answered Kaufman. Yeah, there was some, well, I shouldn't say specifically, I'm not quite verbatim, but that was like the sense that I got was that some argument, some fight, some confrontation that took place in his apartment.
Okay, pause a second. Mr. Durst does not have his screen, and I don't know if he's able to hear that. Will you inquire whether this should be read again? And just for context, this is pertaining to the Galveston situation. The
Yes, this is a conversation between Bob Durst and Sarah Kaufman, and Sarah Kaufman is relating what Bob Durst said to him.
Okay, let's make sure that he's. Mr. Chesnoff, you'll inquire whether it should be reread?
Yes, I will, Your Honor. He's fine with moving forward, Your Honor.
He was able to hear?
He said he's comfortable that he doesn't need it reread, Your Honor.
All right, so pick up from where you left off or just before. Backtrack
Yes.
a second or two.
Mr. Kaufman says, yeah, there was some, well, I shouldn't say specifically, I'm not quite verbatim, but that was like the sense that I got was that some argument, some fight, some confrontation that took place in his apartment. The detective responds, uh-huh. Mr. Kaufman says that he then went into whatever other room, got his gun, and did it. The conversation during the interview continues. Again, the same April 23rd, 2003 recorded interview, page 5, lines 20 through 24. Sarah Kaufman, somehow they ended up in the apartment. There was some heated interaction. Detective, uh-huh. Mr. Kaufman, whatever it was caused him then go get his gun, and then he sat with the body for a while. So stipulated, counsel.
Thank you. The court accepts that stipulation in lieu of testimony from Sarah Kaufman.
People have no further rebuttal, Your Honor.
Is there rebuttal from the
No, Your Honor.
defense?
Yeah. No, Your Honor.
Thank you.
You know, subject to moving, we still have some exhibits to move in as well.
Yes, so I will be considering exhibits, but the jurors don't need to be here for that. I just want to savor this moment.
Are you gonna hit like a bell?
Just breathe. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, this is how we're proceeding. The lawyers have kept their promise to complete the evidence by this day, September 1, and they get extra credit by finishing before noon. By a previous agreement, I'm going to be discussing the exhibits and admission of exhibits, and discuss a little bit of the instructions I'll be giving to you. And that will conclude your work for today. Our schedule going forward is that...
May we approach sidebar real quick on this issue on scheduling?
On scheduling?
Yes.
Okay, well, subject to one last adjustment.
You breathe too quickly there, John.
No. All right, we're back in place now. We've had a discussion about various proposals to accelerate the schedule, which I really appreciate. But we're going to do a little bit more today. Though I'd like to let you, and that is, I'm going to instruct you on the law that applies to the case. But that means that the lawyers and I need to talk some more. We're almost finished, but we need to put some finishing touches on our agreement about the law that applies to the case. So we need a little bit more time. We'll do that at 2 o'clock. I'll read those instructions to you. So you'll have a long lunch. We'll be finishing it just before you come in. So hopefully you don't wait outside too long. No, but I think it's reasonable for you to come back at 2 o'clock after a long lunch. So let me repeat the admonition that I've repeated so many times, but it's important that I do this. Do not converse among yourselves or with anyone else on any subject connected with the case. Do not form or express any opinion on the case. Do not talk about it or about any of the people or any subject involved in it with anyone, including the other jurors. Do not make up your mind about the verdict or any issue until after you've discussed the case with the other jurors during deliberations. We'll see you at 2.
Are we excused as well, Your Honor? Thank you.
We do have, with only 30 minutes later, I was ready to let you go to lunch, but maybe we should give you 8. We need to go to lunch?
No, we're ready to move in the rest of our exhibits if you want.
What's happening? So the people wish to move in are moving to admit the balance of their exhibits presented during cross-examination.
Mr. Henderson will relate which one.
You have placed them on a list and you'll file with the court?
I placed them on a list, I'll file with the court. The only change to that list, the list titled People's Exhibits between 292 to 345 to be admitted, there is a typo on the second page. It should say 332, not 332A.
Just handwrite it, the change.
I will handwrite the change.
All right, next, is there any objection? Any objections? Other than, I already ruled on these at the time.
Yeah.
No objection, they're received. I am required, I believe, to make findings before I give a jury instruction on failure to deny or explain. And I'm looking for that instruction in just a moment. Somebody have that handy? That's 300 and...
It's,
Miata?
I'm looking.
361. 361 has two different standards, People versus Sadler and People versus Granberry. Under either standard, even the most conservative standard, there are clear repeated failures to deny or explain. There is this instruction is clearly justified. I will give it. I have sent to you a proposed modification that addresses the issue of memory. If you want to talk about that at 1:30?
Yes, please, because I'm going to visit with Mr. Ray briefly over.
Very well. So then were there any other defense exhibits besides the ones that were presented? I don't think so.
No, we moved for their admission, Your Honor.
Yes, yesterday I
Yes.
received them except for E.
Right, and then we have just some discussions about some of the state's exhibits that they did not move into evidence.
Yes, and my suggestion is that you identify those that you need for your argument, and that those are critical because you cannot refer to them without them being admitted. So you'll identify those, and we'll discuss whether they ought to be admitted as well.
Thank you, Your Honor.
If the defense has a list, we could look through it over lunch hour. Do you know?
I would appreciate that if you do that. All right.
You know what we need?
Thank you. Then we'll be in recess until 1:30 for the lawyer.
Chris has it.
Yeah, Chris has it.